That's what your boat should look like. Hello, boat. I think I'm gonna need to go to the car wash, dude. I feel like I'm sort of a manic angler, especially during summer, which is hands down my favorite time of the year. I like to either fish super deep or super shallow in the thickest gunk you can find. And that's exactly what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna show you a pattern that I absolutely love, that I think I'm fairly good at, and that's flipping mats. But here's the deal. You guys have seen a lot of videos of me flipping mats. This is gonna be slightly different than what you're used to, and I think it can apply, especially if you're sort of in that late spring mode going into early summer and the grass isn't super high. This is kind of a little bit of an adaptation that you can do to adapt to the conditions at hand, baits to choose, how to rig up, what kind of setups, and what exactly that you're looking for to target some fish that maybe spawned late, some fish that stayed shallow, and just have a good time. This is one of the most fun bites in bass fishing, aside from maybe topwater or finding an absolute mega school. It's a lot of fun, it's intense, it's braid. That is a freaking 25-pound carp right down there. It's all happening right here. Go down below, hit that like and subscribe button. Your support for these videos has been enormous. This is a grassroots channel. We don't go and shell baits and do all that garbage that you get from the pros and from all kinds of different directions. If you want that, go find it. It's all over YouTube. Right here, what you're gonna get is having a good time, catching some bass, learning, and then hopefully catching some more bass. So hit that like and subscribe button. Let's go tap into some of this. Big one. That's a big one. Get in here. Oh my gosh, that's a big one. Golly, that's a big one. Dude, flip mats, they said. It'll be fun, they said. That's a giant. Oh my gosh, I really wish I would have got the first one on video. But we caught another big one. And I'm gonna tell you about this pattern because it's different from flipping mats like we've talked about in the past. But I want to get this girl released. The weather's really warm, the water's really warm. And that is, it almost looks like that fish might have, God, you are big. If I would have caught you pre-spawn, you'd be like 7 pounds, dude. Just a stout one. And you can see all the grass right there. Golly. Angry. Everybody's so angry these days. You guys need to calm it down. Interesting deal. So, you know, let me look at, that's what you think you should be flipping, right? Topped off, like kind of junky mats, like stacked up kind of chop grass mats, you know, very classical things. And we've talked about them in past videos. But what's interesting is the grass just isn't up as high as it is in past years. So we're dealing with a lot of awesome grass on Gunnersville, but it's not topped off the way I like it to punch. So what I did, I've tried to be a little more open-minded about stuff and not so hardline and just go fish, and I think that's important. So what we're doing is, if you guys can see, there's all these like domes and like scattered kind of growing clumps of hydrilla underwater. Perfect grass for targeting for punching, but it's not quite topped off. I think it's kind of like a Texas-ish deal. It's about like 4 or 5 inches under the water, so I'm just taking my 1.5 with a stinger, and I'm literally sort of sight fishing like these clumps right here and pitching in where I would normally, if it was topped off, that's where I would normally pitch, but it's not quite topped off. It's not quite above the surface. So it's a little different pattern, same flipping style setup, same mental approach with what we're looking for with the domes and that, but just trying to adapt to sort of the conditions that are at hand. And that big one tells us a lot about what's going on. Stay on there. That's another big dude. Oh, that is so cool. That is such a cool bite, guys. Just like you feel them take it as it's going down, and you're just like, that's a big fish. Like, that's what's here. Oh, that is, ooh, and a quick, terrible release. Poor guy. Oh my God, that's cool. So what are we rigging up to fish this stuff and punch these kind of submerged mats and isolated mats? It's pretty traditional. I have a 1.5 ounce. This is a Hogtech tungsten weight. I'll be perfectly honest with you. If I had another rod set up, I just kind of came out and wanted to see what the grass looked like, and I'm playing around a little bit. If I was really prepared for this situation, I'd probably have 2 or 3 punching rods. One of them with a 1.5, just like this. Another one with probably a 1.25 or a 1 ounce, a little lighter setup, maybe on a 7.6. What I have right here is this is a 7.9 Halo TI Heavy. This is the punching rod for me. Like, it's long enough, just long enough. The tip is a little more moderate. It's perfect. You don't overpower the fish, but it's got enough backbone to pull a 6-pounder and about 20 pounds of grass up. But I would have this guy, I'd have a 7.6 with like a 1.25 or a 1 ounce. Basically what I'd use that for is some of the sparser stuff that I'm running into. All of them would have double bobber stoppers, just like this, and they'd have a snelled, I like the Hack Attack hook. It's a straight shank, super wide gauge hook. A lot of guys don't like this hook. Use whatever hook makes you happy, but I would recommend using a straight shank hook in this situation. If you're really not comfortable with it, or you don't have a straight shank, get yourself an offset wide gap hook, but just make sure it's got enough gauge that if you do hook a big one, it doesn't become the worst day of fishing of your life, because that would be super sad, because this is a fun way to fish and catch bigs. The other setup that I'd have is a 1.5 probably with a punch skirt. Exact same, tungsten weight with the straight shank, but what that does is it really makes my 1.5 fall more like a 1.25. But it's just like jig fishing or anything like that. Whenever you go to something with a skirt, you're going to want to increase the weight that you have along with it. So in that case, it would be like fishing a 1.25, but I have a 1.5 because it's going to slow down that fall, and I still want to be able, actually almost all of this is based on a reaction bite. It's pretty much based on the drop. Every once in a while you'll catch some pumping it up and kind of suspending the bait, but you really want that pretty quick fall to kind of trigger these fish. Plus we're early in summer. The grass is kind of coming up and just topping off, so these fish, just like we talked about with the ledge fish, they're fresh, dude. They're either coming off the bank from being spawning, from whatever, or they're coming out from the deep after getting battered by Nico rigs like we did. Yes. Jigs, crankbaits. So having something that causes them to react also allows you to cover water. There's probably 100 fish in some of these areas that we're fishing, but we're only going to get 2, 3, 4 bites. So you got to be able to cover water and move. What I'm rigging up, and this is for the most part, this is kind of what I'm starting with, and I'm probably going to end up going to a BB Cricket, something a little more compact, because we might refish some of our stuff. But I got a stinger right here. It's just a ribbed creature bait. Any kind of creature bait that you like works, but all you're going to do is you're going to Texas rig it just like this with that straight shank, pop it through, bring it on out, and then bring the hook on through. There's a small keeper on all these straight shanks just like this. Pop that out and then just skin hook it, basically. In this situation, it's not like you're dragging where you want like a little bit of the tip out, or you want to like double hook the tip, like pass the hook through the plastic and then re-hook it. In this case, since you're using, I think it's 70 or 80 pound, it's the Iowa Samurai braid, which we're going to talk about in a sec, but I got heavy braid, I got a pretty stiff rod, and you're gonna have no problem popping the hook out. I will warn you though, one of the reasons I'm using this bait is you can see it's pretty skinny. The hook does pop out a lot on this, and I mentioned that when I did a few punching videos last year. I like that because what happens is, especially when you're fishing some of the submerged hydrilla, oftentimes the bite's a little hard to feel. You might get a knock, but sometimes it's weight, and that's exactly what the hydrilla hanging on your bait feels like. So the hook does pop out. So if I do feel like, oh, it's hydrilla, and I just pull, if something's on there and pulling back, that snelled knot that I use that kicks the hook up is actually going to pass right through this bait and hook that fish. Now, we are using Samurai braid. Samurai braid is kind of a waxy, kind of smooth braid. Why I'm doing that is because this grass is not hard cover. It's soft, what I'd consider soft submergent vegetation. It's either eelgrass that's chopped up, or it's hydrilla that's either submerged or topped off in the water. The samurai braid's a little quieter, so if I do need to pump that bait up and down and kind of flick it and kind of tease them a little bit to get them to bite, I'm not making a bunch of sound. Guntersville is one of the most pressured lakes in the country, and I really believe that braid sound can scare them away. I don't like going to fluorocarbon in this situation. There's just too much stretch there, and I think I lose, even though you do get more bites, I 100% admit that, I think you lose more fish, so it's a trade-off. I'd rather have the braid, and I think I get a little bit of a one-up with that smoother braid, but we need to get back to catching some fish. I moved up here from South Florida. I live in Huntsville, so it's cool. It's mikeybalzz fishing, mikeybalzz. That's another big one. Just sat on it. Get in here. Get in here. That's a freaking 7-pounder, dude. That's a 7-8 pounder. Do you see that thing? Holy Jesus. That's going on the scale. Do you see that thing? Oh my God. Dude, she just sat on it. That is a monster. Look at that thing. I don't like doing this during the summer, but we're putting that fish on a scale. It is a monster. The head on this thing is like an 8-9 pounder. It doesn't weigh that much because it's post spawn, but dude, this thing is monstrous. All right, let's grab this thing. I mean, dude, like, look at the head on that thing. Look at that. All right, let's do her real quick. Oh my God. And then we gotta get her back real quick, dude. Oh my God, that's awesome. That is so cool. 6 pounds, 8 ounces. But the head is like an 8-pounder, dude. All right, let's get her back real quick. Oh, what a beautiful fish. Thank you for all the fun. Look at her go. That thing was a tub, dude. If you guys noticed in the video, like, I didn't really set the hook that hard, and it's what I was talking about where you feel like you're kind of clung on grass, because literally that fish came out of this submergent stuff, and I'm just kind of pitching the domes around it, and I just reeled down to kind of feel, it felt a little funny, so I reeled down to feel if she's there. And it's a good lesson too. I like setting the hook on these guys in the mats because it's fun, it's high impact fishing, but in reality, when you have that hook snelled, you really don't have to pull on them that hard to actually set them. And oftentimes you're gonna land more fish if you just reel down and kind of put tension and pull back on them, because the hook's gonna kick out. They're not gonna freak out when you first hook them and dive all over the place. And that choker just, I mean, it sat on the bait, dude. That was cool. We got more of this to fish too. That was stupid. I missed getting like a 5-pounder on video right off the bat when I got out here. If I had that with 3 fish, we'd be looking at like 17, 18 pounds, dude. That's stupid. What's the deal, buddy? I'm disappointed when it's a 2.5 pounder now. What an amazing day. I love catching them this way and punching. If you guys have done it, I'm sure a lot of you guys have. It's an intense way to catch fish. We even got stopped by the cops, which actually goes to show, quick lesson to learn. If you communicate and you're halfway honest, 90% of the time your interaction on the water, when you're dealing with either state trooper or like DNR, wildlife commission, whatever it is where you are, is going to be a positive one. Like, for the most part, these guys don't want to hassle you. They're doing their job. Like, just be nice, be polite, and usually that's what you're going to get back. And that's exactly what happened. The dude that stopped us was so super cool. He was actually showing me Facebook pictures of fish that were caught today out on Gunner. So it was cool, man. He was a super cool dude. But punching, like, it's awesome. And we caught some mondos. I really wish I'd have got that first one on video, but you guys get the idea. We're gonna do a little more in-depth garage talk about punching baits,
punching setups, because there are different setups that you can use. Punching is a very broad term, from anywhere from mats to thick vegetation to pitching and punching open holes in the vegetation. There's a lot of different variations and different baits that you use, different rigs. We're going to go through some of that stuff in the garage talk, but for today, I think really, let me show you this pattern again, because it was really interesting. It's something that I think you can do, whether it's milfoil, hydrilla. We did it today with hydrilla, but it's just this submerged stuff that you see, and it's very annoying to do. I'll be the first one to admit, you got to be really quiet on the trolling motor. We had the trolling motor on like 3, and I tried to stay off it as much as possible, because I'm a strong believer that trolling motor spooks fish. I saw it literally in front of my face in Florida. I'd fish behind somebody and be sneakier when we were flipping pads or we were flipping mats, and I would catch fish out of a mat somebody just fished in front of me, but they kind of blazed up too. They were loud, they were clunking around. Being sneaky when it comes to this close proximity fishing is important, whether you're doing it from the bank or whether you're doing it on a boat. But really, the clue or the key pattern was just taking what we normally punch, which is domed up, or I guess more of it's on the bank, like the traditional matted stuff like that, but reapplying it out a little deeper and sort of expanding the stuff we had to fish, the cover that we had to fish. We started off focusing on isolated little clumps that had popped up. It's a great way to find bigger fish as well as numbers, because the isolated patches seem to kind of, I don't know, group them up. They like those little isolated separate little targets, and they pack up under there. We got quite a few bites, caught a good one. But then I wanted to find something a little different, and this submerged hydrilla deal, it's kind of cool because it's a window. It's not going to last. It's something that'll last a couple weeks depending on where you are and how fast the grass grows, but it's definitely something that you can think about, because especially if you're up, say, on the bank, and this is exactly how we found it. We were up on the bank punching those mats and nothing happened. Zero. So I kind of just tooled out a little ways, and as I was doing so, I flipped some of this submerged stuff, and all of a sudden I caught a giant. So it's one of those deals where, as you're kind of maybe pulling out of a place, if you haven't gotten bit where you think they should be already, maybe push out, and if you see some of that submerged stuff, dip your cricket in it, because they're there. They like this kind of, if you think the cover's right, then it probably is. It's just like if you think you got a bite, you probably did. But that's gonna be a wrap for today. Key equipment, grass, lots of grass, but 1.5 ounce tungsten right there. That's a Hog Tech straight shank hack attack hook. I'll put links to all this stuff down in the description box at Tackle Warehouse. Get old greeny meanie. This is the zebra version. Yeah, nice. 80-pound braid, a 711 Halo TI, heavy action. It's moderate fast. And that's pretty much what we did. Gambler stinger on the back, but you can use a BB cricket. You can use whatever kind of creature bait that you like. The one thing to play around with are 2 things: size of the bait, as well as whether they want paddles or whether they want more of a glide or just like a straight sort of like a beaver style action, something along those lines. But we're going to get into all that in the garage talk, so stay tuned and make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the garage talk on flipping. But thank you guys for supporting the videos, and thank you guys for watching. I'll give Bog a pat for you. Tight lines. Till next time.